Hello guys, welcome to the next episode of Late Friday Night's Banter Blitz. Sorry for somewhat late start. So as usual, I will start with several games against the guys who attended the show for the first time and made a challenge, of course, and then we'll come back to the normal order of challenges. So let's see if we have this, guys, and I do hope that the stream will be good today because, well, last time there were a lot of different technical problems, so I also was forced to restart the stream and so on. So, do hope that everything will be okay today. So, Nigel ST from England. I've never played before. 5 minutes. Let's start with this guy. I'm playing with black pieces. So, what should it be? E4, D4, C4, knight F3, E4. Okay. So, let's play standard E5. And probably there will be, Ruy Lopez. The question is, no questions anymore, so bishop C6 was played quickly. And we have the exchange variation and the queen f6 line that I usually play here. Takes. Bishop g5 is a move here. Also, a lot of players choose exactly this queen d4. Okay, bishop g4 is an interesting option. Yeah, more or less forcing white to take on f6. There was also a possibility to play e5. And knight goes to e5. Okay. So, well, there is a possibility of playing bishop e2. And then after rook e1 I can castle, but then knight c3. I don't achieve anything with this, so I guess it's just to go back with the bishop a bit, to occupy this e6 position. Looks rather natural for the bishop, controlling c4. So preventing white from playing knight c4 or something. Maybe intending to occupy this square with the bishop a bit later. At the moment, of course, I have a direct threat. f3. Okay, so I noticed that you're not satisfied with the volume of the sound, so let's make it a bit better. Well, at least let's try to make it a bit better. Not sure if it helps, but let me know how it sounds now. Bishop g5. All right. So there is a possibility to play bishop e7, preventing damaging of the pawn structure. It is also possible to play bishop c5. Okay, so bishop c5, check, king h1, bishop d4 looks very tempting. Should I try it or not? Let's try it. Check. And bishop d4. Attacking both e5 and b2. Which probably forces white to put the knight on d3. Alright, and here I wanted to continue the attack with the bishop c4. Could I do this? Yes, I think it's possible. So pieces make more sound now. That is very strange. Okay. What about my voice now? Very strange. So, positioning of the mic is okay, just as usual. So, don't understand why this problem occurs. So, 92, I will take on d3. Bishop takes b2. Yeah, good from the United Kingdom. So I think it is just the difference in your settings, guys, because some people say it's a Kai, some people say it's not a Kai, and so on. So I can't, unfortunately, satisfy each and everybody. Okay, rook b1. So I want a pawn, right? d3 pawn also looks very weak. Where should I put my bishop? That's an interesting question. So bishop c3 looks good. Bishop takes f6. So I can take with the pawn here because the knight remains attacked, and then I can take on d3. I can also just take with the bishop without damaging my own pawn structure and then just attack d3. I think this second option is a bit more solid, so I'll choose exactly this. Knight c4. Okay, I will change the settings after this game, alright? I think it will be okay for each and everybody. Because at the moment I want to focus on the game. So rook d8 or what? Or b5 or even b6. There is a sort of knight a5 which might be annoying. So I think I will start with the b6, just restricting the knight a bit. Maybe bishop d4 was better here. I can take this option right now, so I can put my bishop on d4 at the moment. g3. And another rook goes to d8. Not sure if it was needed, I mean, to play c5 here, but okay, let's try this a bit more aggressive approach. '92. What about just g5 now? I have this good outpost for my bishop. Yeah, I have a threat of c4. My opponent prevented this. There are also a lot of other interesting options possible after this. So I can simply improve position on the king side. Sorry, queen side. Like this. So d3 drops now. or the rook drops now. The rook is even better. So, won the game. Okay, so each and everybody, I think, contributed to telling me about the sound. It's clear. As I said, I'll try to change the settings right now after the game. So first of all, let's simply reduce the sound from pieces. So, settings. Where is it? Play sounds. No sounds now. So, yeah, ProMove is still here. Everything is fine. Okay. So no sound now. Should be just okay with this. As for the voice, I don't really know. So actually, the volume is, yeah, adjusted at the moment. Put the mic closer to your mug. Oh, seriously. Yeah. Okay, so I just do the same, like, yeah, each and every time. So it was fine just during all the episodes, almost during all the episodes. Don't understand. So at the moment, positioning, yeah, position on the mic is just usual. Okay, so I don't care. Let's go further. So somebody else whom I never played before. Do we have such a person here? I'm on challengers. So, no, this guy I've already played. Alright, here is Dragon 2245. By the way, unrated game, but why not? What is the difference? So 5 minutes. Right, let's play. Let us play. So, in the previous game, I guess my opponent simply underestimated my play with bishop c5 and bishop d4, because I won the pawn quickly, after which it is already not very clear how to survive it with white, because I had simply the bishop against the knight. I had an extra pawn, no compensation. So in general, well, if you play d4 in this line, you shouldn't recapture with the queen, so bishop g5 is a bit better. And if you take with the queen, then after bishop g4, so knight e5 is kind of strange idea. I don't think that it was wrong in general. I mean, I don't think it was the decisive mistake, but okay. Well, in general, I don't like the idea of putting the knight on e5. There is nothing to do here. Okay, so here we have what? Here we have Queen's Indian defense, or maybe the Catalan. What? Bishop d2. That is something new to me. It feels like white doesn't want to fight for e4 square at all. Well, maybe it makes sense for me just to occupy it immediately with a knight. So, knight e4. Knight c3. I guess it makes sense for me just to grab the bishop. Queen takes d2, and position is interesting because white has probably good center. Well, I expected e4, but well, e3 is also quite solid. And black has pair of bishops. So what is better here? Pair of bishops or the center. Well, not clear at the moment. Bishop d3. Let's castle. Castles. Now I can take on f3 damage in the pawn structure, but I don't think I will have a lot of resources to exploit this weakening at the moment. So maybe it's better just to focus on continuing the development. So I'll play d6, preparing knight to d7. Well, h3 actually forces me to do something active. It's just a way to move, accomplishing nothing. Alright, I will just play knight e7. Why you play 1600s? Well, first of all, I play everybody I want to. Second of all, just like I said, I start with guys I've never played before, and then I just follow the normal order of challenges. Okay? Yeah. So queen c2, attacking h7. f5 or g6. Well, both look quite good. I'll start with the g6 move. Knight e4. So f5 is possible now. Let's do it. Knight goes to g3. And now it's very tempting to take on f3, to be honest. But once again, I'm not sure there is a possibility to use this weakening. I can of course try bishop f3 and then f4. Still, I don't feel like it is the best option. I guess e5 is a bit more promising, so let's try e5 instead. So I've just created this thread of e4. Also, maybe I want to just take on f3 and then take on d4. After this sort of transformation, of course, white's pawn structure will be quite bad. So Erwin 29, what are you talking about? Which DVD? Did not understand. Okay, I have only 1 minute, and after this strange opening, I guess my opponent is doing more or less fine, so let's try to play quickly. I could have achieved much more from this position, of course. And probably I should have captured on f3 at some point. Because now white is a guy, as we can see. So everything that I can do here is probably to attack, just like in King's Indian. But my opponent, as we can see, just prevents all this sort of attack. So it will be a long way to the top. But a4 is, of course, a great mistake. So now white has no counterplay. Very strange decision. But let's try to achieve something here on the king side. Knight c3, okay, h5. Wanted to try it. But even knight h2 looks solid. I don't know, what am I going to do there? Maybe I'll try something like f5 or something. Oh, excuse me, this pawn is very important achievement for black, because now black simply has the pawn and also more or less straightforward access to the king, which is good. Let's put the bishop here. H file is open, so I can use it. Just regrouping my pieces. So queen d7 to control g4 and to support the bishop. Yeah, probably that was not necessary, but okay. Bishop d3 is hanging, by the way. Was hanging. But knight on h2 is hanging as well, so okay, black's position is already winning. I think there are a lot of different ways to the win. Let's try the easiest one. Let's attack the rook. And checkmate. Okay, so my opponent played very bad. I actually played very bad too, because after such an opening with the bishop d2, I could have achieved much more. But okay, after knight c3, knight e2, queen d2, bishop b7. Yeah, first of all, e4 was much better than e3. Just grabbing the space, maybe even d5. And we deal with the position which is very close to one of the lines in Rubinstein variation. Here, after e3, we have also something like that. And I guess instead of d6, I could have tried just capturing on f3 and playing something more aggressive like c5, maybe. d6 is also not bad, but white could have equalized easily somewhere here. So after knight e4 and f5, I think that I should have captured an f3 exactly here. And then to try to exploit the weakening of the king side. Anyways, so let's go further. So a lot of guys we have played already. Amando. Surprisingly, we have played already 5 times. Can't remember when we played. Okay. So here we go. So again, black pieces. Let's see what my opponent will do in this game. e4, e5. It's probably Ruy Lopez again. Yeah, true. But instead of exchanged variation, just bishop a4. Classic line. Rookie 1. Pawn e4 is protected, so b5 should be played. d6. Everything according to this theory. And now h3 instead of c3. Okay. Slight difference is that I can play knight a5 now. And I want to try it. So I usually love bishops. And here there is a Spanish bishop. Very delicious one. So I'll take it with pleasure. Now e5 is hanging, so I guess I have to protect it with the knight d7 move. Knight c3, b5 is hanging. So I think the next move is also more or less forced. Bishop b7, but there is also a threat of knight d5, so maybe it makes sense for me just to start with the c6 controlling d5 square. Yeah, it makes much more sense. Because if I play bishop b7, then knight d5 might be really annoying. So I'll play c6, protecting both the d5 and b5. Yeah. So, as a result, I have pair of bishops, which is good. And, well, quite simple play, I guess. So bishop e3, bishop b7, I think should be played as well. Just to have all the pieces already developed, occupying more or less active positions. Now let's castle. And the knight goes to f5, right? And I think it makes sense for me to prevent knight f5 with the help of g6 move. I don't think that the weakening of the h6 square is critical here. Knight h2, also typical maneuver. Knight goes to g4. Okay. So I'd like to try this move. I know it's not very good, but I just want to clarify the pawn structure right now. Probably e takes d4 followed by c5 was better because of opening out the position, and when you have pair of bishops, of course, what you want to do is definitely to open up a position to make your bishops much more active and so on. So now white has a chance to close the position if he wants. Alright, so this is questionable. I think d5 was better. This gives me a chance to come up exactly with what I want. I want to open up a position more or less. So let's try to do it. Have to be careful though. Because I have some weaknesses, right? All right. Not so simple. d5 is interesting now. So let's try d5. and queen takes. Okay, so g2 is protected. The knight exerts some pressure. I guess I have to put my bishop on f6 now. But then what should I do after rook d1? To take on g2? Dubious. Well, alright. Let's try it. Maybe d5 was too optimistic. So let's say queen g2, bishop g2. And I guess the d6. I have to take on h3, knight e8, rook e8. So I have some compensation for the missing exchange, but I'm not sure if it will be a complete compensation. At least it, well, gives me some play, because if my queen goes away now, then rook d6 is coming, which is quite annoying, because I have only two moves, c6 and e6. In both cases, rook goes to d6, so let's take here. Alright. So now I have extra pawn, but position is quite dangerous. Maybe it's not dangerous, I don't know. Maybe it's just a Kai. So I have to be careful about the G file only. Let's go way in advance. Now I think it makes sense to exchange this rook, because it is very active. The knight now additionally protects g7, so there are no threats. Does it make sense to play e4 now? Yes, why not? Attacking b2, at the same time restricting the knight there. Let's take on d2. Two extra pawns. And looks like good chances to have this crazy pawn, which will be very hard to stop. So just a3, a2, a1 or something. Yeah. Can't see threats. Okay, the threat of a checkmate there, but just take it. And now the queen is here. And time to resign. So, how to checkmate it? Let's start with this. Check. One more check. One more check. One more check. Too materialistic, but why not? And checkmate. Okay. Interesting game, and I do believe that white missed the chance here. So after I took on g2 twice, takes. Knight e6 should have been played 100%. Attacking the rook, and my bishop is hanging still. So yeah, after bishop takes h3, knight e8, and rook e8, that was actually the position I wanted to play. Because I still have pair of bishops, right? So I have two pawns as a compensation for the exchange. But white's rooks are quite active here. So rook d6, for instance, attacking the bishop. Then after I say play bishop e6 or something, it's possible to play b4, attacking the knight, then a6 drops, and so on. This looks quite promising, so I wanted to put the knight here to attack b2, but then b3, knight c3, rook a6. Well, position is double-edged, definitely playable, and I think white has even slightly better chances to win here. But that was an interesting option. right? Um, let's go further. Let's play one more guy I've never played before, and then we'll come back to normal order of challenges. So here is first light. Accept. E4. It feels like the first game with white this evening, right? Yep, exactly. But my opponent doesn't want to respond. So okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry. All right. Next one. Next one is Denise from Poland. 2700s. That's the real challenge. Let's play. E4. E5, knight f3. And Ruy Lopez. Okay. Good choice for Blitz. This f5, honestly. Takes. Knight f6. So, as far as I remember, queen e2 is a move here. Now we have an interesting position. So I think d4 should be played. Fighting for center. And here I think e6 should be played at some point, but I don't remember immediately or after bishop takes c6, damaging the pawn structure a bit more. I have a feeling that bishop c6 should be included because after immediate e6, knight e5 can be quite annoying. So let's take here and play e6. So now black definitely has pair of bishops, that's true, but the pawn structure is quite bad. So I will try to play against these weak pawns. Black will try to compensate it with the activity of his pieces. Have to be careful about light squares now, because this guy in e6 has no counterpart. The next question is where to put my queen. I think that I have to start with this move. Just controlling f5 square. And getting a bit closer to pawns of the queen side. So maybe I'll try queen c3 at some point. I'm not sure where to put my dark squared bishop. At the moment it feels like e3 square is a good idea. Controlling c5 and maybe intending to occupy d4. Let's check if it is possible. Yeah, I think there is nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so it's not clear how to activate black's pieces. I think there is no obvious way of doing it. That's why my opponent started thinking here. I mean, it's not that easy to find a concrete object of attack in my position. So bishop f8, probably intending to occupy d6, at the same time preparing c5. Let's put the queen on c3 just like I wanted, to control c5 and to attack f6 at the same time. Position is quite interesting. So bishop g7 actually kind of, yeah, waste of time now. So now, to wait until black plays f5 himself, or just to play bishop d4, kind of forcing him. Let's try bishop d4, I think it is a good blockading move. One more time attacking f6. At very least just improving position of the bishop, right? Now the bishop is perfectly placed here in the center, controlling both sides. Alright, so I can't take on f6 obviously, but I can do what? I can play this, just a normal move, solving the problem of the back rank in advance, and also clarifying the things with this bishop. G4 is just a weakening of my position, so instead I think it's time to activate heavy pieces. So just healthy strategy, I think. At least it looks like that from white's side. So at the moment my knight is doing nothing. Maybe it's a good moment to maneuver it somewhere. So knight h4 looks fine, then queen f4. g3, queen goes to f5. Some unnecessary complications. So instead I would try knight h2. A bit more solid route from my point of view, so knight f1, knight g3, something like this. With the same idea actually, to try to do something with the f5 square. So now to stop the pawn on a5, not sure. Let's just continue the plan. Queen b4. Okay, let's just continue the plan. Because a slight simplification, I think, will be okay. Alright, let's occupy f5 square and let's try to be a bit more active, because, I mean, faster a bit, because just have no time. The time is melting on the clock. Okay, so c5. There's already a threat and my opponent actually outplayed me. because he just managed to improve his position while I just made several stupid maneuvers. But after this exchange, I think I'm better, okay? Alright, let's save this bishop. Because I do believe that long term my bishop should be better than this one on d6. Okay. Let's do the activation. Alright. That is very good. This should be absolutely winning, but I missed the opportunity. But now it should be winning, right? Yes. Just one extra tempo saved me. Alright, very interesting, complicated game to be honest. Very hard opponent. But I think I missed something somewhere here. So at this stage, I think I did very well. So just occupying most important squares with my pieces. Maybe here I missed the opportunity to play knight d4, attacking c6 pawn. But I guess after f5, black still had, yeah, good counter chances, because if I take on c6 with a queen, then after queen c6, knight c6, bishop b2, material is even. So yeah, maybe knight d4 is not great here. But probably bishop d4 was just too early, premature. So instead, maybe h3 was interesting, just restricting the bishop e6, and then f5 leads to bishop d4. So f5 wasn't kind of threat. It was actually very good for me to wait a bit, because if black plays f5, I play bishop d4, I actually achieve what I want. So the bishop e6 is even more restricted with own pawns, and if I manage to exchange dark square bishops here while black no longer has pair of bishops, well, in fact, white has very simple play against numerous dark squared weaknesses here. That's the point. Would it be such a crisis for the guy to volume up, or what is going on? I don't understand. We already agreed that the sound was adjusted, so everything was fine. So it happened again? Something is going on to the sound today, or what? It's not a crisis. I was just sure that everything is already solved. Okay? Come on. Would it be such a crisis for you to be a bit more polite and show a bit more understanding? Did not understand this tone, you know. Okay, so somebody tell me please, what is going on to the sound on your side? I just want to collect several opinions to understand. Is it a problem on my side, on my end, or is just the difference in settings? Let's go further. So now it's time to come back to the normal order of challenges, I think. Yep. So Smugs was the first to die. Accept. e4. e5, knight f3. So most likely there will be again Ruy Lopez. Bishop b5. Let's go to a4. When playing Blitz, I usually choose bishop takes c6 or something. But recently, I decided to play this. A bit more aggressive approach. But still not the main line, not this c3, d4, and so on. Okay. h6 prevented me from playing knight g5, probably. That's the idea. Alright. So let's undermine this b5 pawn, one of typical ideas here for white. And let's continue attacking this pawn. Bishop b4. Not the usual way of playing it, to be honest. Not the usual one. So if my opponent takes on c3, I will be probably not against. But there is the question, to give him a chance to play bishop c3 in such a situation, I mean damaging my pawns a bit on the queen side, or just to play bishop d2 right now, forgetting about this problem. I don't think that bishop c3 is a big problem for white, because it brings the pawn to c3, which will be very helpful in the sense of controlling b4 and d4. So yeah, let's castle. Takes. Castles. So once again, I had some problems with chat. Please let me know again what is going on to the sound. Is it really too low? Or what is that? I mean, do you hear what I'm talking about? Yeah, there is no game sounds. Well, we just switched it off because a lot of people just asked me this in the beginning of the show. Sound is fine, sound is fine, sound is low. Sound is perfect. We can hear you, Andrey. So come on. Everything is fine, right? More or less. So let's focus on chess finally. I think black is doing well here in this position. So I have to probably force something in the center. Otherwise, black will just play knight a5 and so on. Knight h4 is kind of the idea, starting the attack on the king side, but it might be very risky, I guess. On the other hand, I can't see any other way to achieve something in this position and to achieve it quickly. So let's do it. Quite a bit nervous broadcast today. These technical problems actually chase me from one episode to another one. That's strange. So after knight h4, what do I want? my main intention is to occupy, of course, this square, f5. Knight g6 was kinda intention, but, well, f5 is my main goal here. I want to exert some pressure on g7 and h6 with the help of my knight, my bishop, and my queen, potentially. Maybe even to bring the rook there. Yeah, very good move, just exchanging, or at least trying to exchange, one of my main attacking pieces here. I mean, this knight e7. Let's see. So knight f5, queen f5, g6, queen h3 looks pretty cool for white. So I don't think my opponent will take on f5 now. On the other hand, there is this threat of knight g7 or knight takes h6, so at very least black has to do something with the knight f6 to protect it somehow. Bishop c8. Okay, now I can take on h6, right? Yes. f7 is hitting now. And let's come back. So I won very important pawn and just came back. Now let's take one more. My opponent's kind of generous. So let's use it before it finished. So white's position is already winning. The only problem is the time, but my opponent also in sort of time trouble, so let's do it. Let's get to the h file now. After winning h6 pawn, it became very tempting object of attack. Very natural one. I could have captured on d8, winning a lot of material, but I think it's easier for me to keep queens on the board because it feels like a very simple attack along this h file. So no problems for white to win this at all. Time to resign for black, but of course black can keep playing a bit more. Okay, so I think this bishop b4 approach in general is not very cool, but white should have played bishop d2 instead of castling. So yeah, bishop d2, preventing this damaged pawn structure, because I think this version, if black takes on c3, is much better for white if compared to the pawn on c3, because in this case, well, first of all, my bishop controls a5 square, so there is no knight a5, I don't have to worry about that. And, well, I can do almost the same, but once again, when you have normal pawn structure, it usually goes much better. So here, after this exchange on c3, bc3, and castling, I also made this rook e1 move. Not even intending to play knight h4 at this very moment. I wanted more or less to play d4, but then after d6 I realized that this d4 will be, well, nothing absolutely, because well, I have no direct threats while I just weaken my e4 pawn, so black is just doing well, simply counter-attacking me with the help of knight a5 at some point. So that's why I decided just to focus on the attack, but of course it's not a real attack, it's just a couple of threats. For instance, it was quite normal for black to try just the immediate knight e7. Most likely the easiest knight a5 was just okay, right? Just dealing with this bishop, trying to exchange exactly this guy. It is the key attacking piece here. Only with this bishop on the board it's possible to create anything with white. So I don't think it is really dangerous. I mean, this knight g6 or knight f5, yeah, those are possible moves, but for instance, if I do the same like in the game, after knight f5, it's possible just to grab this guy and to deal with this knight f5, for instance, with the help of bishop c8. So ab5, bishop f5, and then ab5. Everything is fine. So position should be more or less balanced here. That's my opinion. Let's go further. Phenomenon is the next, accept. And white pieces. So a lot of games with black and now a lot of games with white. Okay. And again e5. Did anybody play something except for e5 today? I don't think so. It looks like it is the evening of Ruy Lopez, right? Strange. Very strange. d4. Erin29, please stop irritating me with these questions, okay? Because you just name yeah, the chapters of that DVD that you mentioned at the very beginning. It's not very cool, I mean. So we are at the moment on chess 24, and somebody already told you that actually we don't market the products of, yeah, from different sources here. Except for my own, yeah, YouTube channel, which is for free. I mean, so I don't get money from my YouTube at the moment. Bishop g4. What is going on? Let's take on e5. Bishop takes e5. So what happened here, actually, we have exchanged variation of Ruy Lopez, but usually black has a pair of bishops as a compensation. Here is different. So after this bishop d6 followed by bishop g4, I force black to give up one of the bishops. So the question, how is the weather in Bielefeld today, Andrey? Just like yesterday, I mean, rainy and awful. So just as usual, I would say. Queen f6. Interesting position. I would just take here. That's interesting if I can convert it somehow. So it's kind of extra pawn on the king side. Without this typical compensation in the form of two bishops. The weather in Bielefeld is always imaginary. Oh, come on. Yeah. It's never-ending story. I mean, trolling somebody from Bielefeld. Yeah. It's always fun. Always fun. So f4 and e5. Just this straightforward plan, or no, I think it will be too much. So I'll just play c3, limiting the bishop f6. I want to complete my development, in fact. So I want my bishop on f4, for instance, attacking this c7 pawn. And I have a feeling that I can win some material. I might be wrong though. So I will start with knight a3, just development. And protecting rook on d1. And Gütersloh, it is always sunny. That's great. I also think that Gütersloh is better than Bielefeld. And if nothing wrong happens, I will be participating in Gütersloh Sparkassen Open this year as well. Castles. Bishop takes c7, brings me the pawn. Kramnik student says, I'm very tired of Ruy Lopez structures today. Me too, my friend. Me too, but what can I do? Erin29, I'm not angry on you because my sound is not good. Just because you make this block quotes like every 5-7 minutes, alright? Yeah, I understand which DVD do you mention, right? But somebody already asked you not to do this here in Chess24. I asked you the same a few minutes ago, maybe in a bit rude form. But it's really annoying, like when you see the chat simultaneously with playing chess and you see just all the same, like, yeah, like a strange marketing or something like this. So please don't do this, and I won't be angry, all right? We're looking forward to welcome you at the Sparkassen Cup. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Last year it was a pleasure to play there. Very good place and almost perfectly organized. Just, yeah. Just a pleasure to participate. Okay. Now I'm on pawn up, right? Question. Did you learn Caracan? Well, more or less. So if you want, you can try playing it against me. Let's do this. Simplification. Grabbing the space. Where the knight goes? Interesting question. To g8 probably. Oh, knight e7. Okay, with pleasure, because now I have extra pawn in a keen and pawn endgame. Should be winning, technically. Can you say some sentences in German, Andrey? You had a final exam. It's not a final exam. It's not a final exam. I do hope so, at least. Ich hoffe. A5. Okay, A4. Now I have to convert this king and pawn endgame. Have to be careful not to make a stupid mistake. F6, alright, I will take. G6 now. And now I have to come up with a breakthrough on this side of the board. It won't be that hard. Yeah. Winning position. So my opponent actually made a strange choice in the opening. This bishop d6 and bishop g4. It's kind of not very sound, because I just take on e5, which forces black to take on f3 intermediately. And after queen f3 and bishop e5, we have a standard position from exchanged variation of Ruy Lopez. But as I said during the game, the problem is that black no longer has this typical compensation in the form of pair of bishops. That's the idea. And this means white has the typical positional advantage, and this means this pawn majority on the king side should decide at some point. From this point of view, this queen f6 is kind of also the move that a bit helps me because I want to simplify a position. But probably queen f6 wasn't the best continuation here. Probably queen to h3 or queen to g4 was better. Creating sort of queen d7 or something. And then, yeah, continuing with the development of the pieces. I don't know. So after queen f6, I would prefer taking with the knight maybe, but after knight f6 there is f4, which might be annoying, but then bishop d6, c5, bishop c5, check. Okay, so knight f6 was possible. So yeah, I would take on f6 with the knight, because after bishop f6, as we can see, white has very simple development, while black has problems with protecting c7 and so on. Okay. Yeah, let's go further. The next is Craig Evans. Accept. And I'm playing with black, so this will be, yeah, this will be probably King's Gambit. Yeah, just like in the previous game. And I played something like knight g6, I think. This queen e2 is kind of interesting idea, right? So this time we'll try this. But probably knight g6 is better, but I don't know. I will play this knight g6 once the pawn f4 will be really attacked. For example here. Let's do it. And I think I have to be a bit faster in this game because usually Craig plays very imaginative chess, and yeah, if you don't have enough time, it's very hard to solve the problems that he creates. Knight b4. Knight b4 is nothing, absolutely. Bishop e7 looks natural, but then knight goes to d5. Should I play d6 and bishop g4 then? I think yes. This looks very good, especially after g4 became this weakened. So I guess h4 was a bit too much. For example, here I can take on d4, right? It doesn't look like I missed something. And now I think I can simply take on f3, g takes f3, and then bishop goes to e6. This looks like a safe option for black. Does anybody know if the Fisher line with d6 is already refuted? Fisher line with the d6? Maybe with the d5? Maybe with the d6, I don't know. I do remember the Fisher preferred this d5 move against King's Gambit. So e4, e5, f4 takes, and then after knight f3, d5. I might be wrong though. Might be wrong. So to take on d5 or not to take on d5? That's a good question. That's a good question. Let's take it. Let's simplify position a bit. Let's castle. Now it looks a bit crazy, but bishop h4 is a threat. I can take on h4 right now. But do I really want to take it? I mean, if I take on h4, then h-file becomes open, and it might be dangerous. Might be simply dangerous. The other thing that I can simplify position very, very, very quick. Like bishop h4. No, bishop h4, bishop d3 might be played even. Sacrificing this e1 rook, but then taking on h5. No, it's definitely too dangerous to play this. Let's put the bishop on f6 instead. Also normal square for the bishop, preventing bishop c3, maybe intending to occupy e5 position. Slightly improving positions of pieces. Let's say bishop e5 here looks very good. Or not. Or do I just overestimate my position? Have no idea. Let's put the bishop on e5 and see. Now it would be great to open up position on the queen side somehow, quickly. Can I do this quickly or not? So c6, takes, then rook b8, and then what? There is nothing clear there, while white has very simple rook g5, rook h5 maneuver. Maybe b5, b4 somehow. But b5, bishop takes b5. Let's try it anyways. Maybe that was too much. After rook g5, okay. Let's keep playing this. Yeah. Now it starts looking a bit bad for black, honestly. So I could have been a bit more patient. What to do now? Have no idea. Let's put the rook here. Intending to open up the b file somehow. Yeah, I have a feeling that I could have played this much better than I did. But okay. I have what I have. Let's keep playing. A4. Just to come back to f6 or what? Does it give me anything? I'm not sure. Is there another plan? I can simply sacrifice the exchange on b5 at some point. All doesn't look enough. So let's start with the queen f6. Now, bishop to d4 maybe. I need to bring my pieces there somehow. For example, this way. Okay. Bishop takes b2. very tempting now. But I'm not sure if I can do it. But why not? So, let's go back somewhere. Spent a lot of time on this. That was kind of obvious decision. Just put my bishop on e5 now, I think. b5 drops. That's a very important pawn. d5 as well. And black wins. Okay, again, very complicated game. Very complicated game, but yeah. Yeah. I was lucky. I was lucky a bit. Because I don't think I played very well after the opening. So it looked like my opponent just missed knight takes d4. And after that, well, I could have played much better than what I did. To start with, knight takes f3. I don't think knight f3 was good. It was much better probably just to go back to c6 and then to occupy e5 square. So after knight f3, I just gave my opponent a very simple plan. Right, and lost the time on this bishop e6 when my bishop was just good on g4. So, don't know, knight e6 or knight c6. So two opportunities were quite interesting to try. Don't know. And a bit later, I think that somewhere here I started missing the point. So rook g5, b4. Yeah, rook f5 was a good move. After queen e7, however, I have a feeling that a simple c4 was a bit better than taking on b4. Because after taking on b4, well, that was probably also good. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that. But after c4, it's harder for me to do something. Well, maybe it's just a feeling. Yeah, because after cb4, it's actually quite easy for me to make several moves in a row and to do them quite quickly. So I just undermine, I go there, I come back, attack on b2. So we can see I just do everything almost automatically without much thinking, without much spending time and so on. So in Blitz, it's kind of really annoying to play this with white when you are under attack. That's the point. So, don't know. But I think with the accurate play, it was possible to neutralize all white's threats. So for instance, here after bishop d4, I would prefer just, instead of rook g5, again, rook to f5, attacking my queen, trying to break my plan. So it was, in my opinion, very important to kick me away from this diagonal. And if I don't occupy this diagonal with both the bishop and the queen, it's very hard for me to achieve anything. Because this idea appeared very annoying. So this knight e5, I mean, with the idea of bishop takes b2, and also with the attack against f3. And as we can see, this knight is going also to occupy c4 once the bishop goes away from this diagonal. So somewhere on e4, I just play knight c4 with further attack on b2. That's the problem here, I guess. All right, the game was very interesting, very complicated. I think that h4, well, was a bit optimistic in the opening. But then the main problem was, of course, with this giving me a chance to take on d4. Instead of that, it was possible to play knight e5, and after bishop g4, just to play c3. That was all right, intending to take on f4, or just to continue the same way as usual, just bishop d2 castles, or maybe even to try something that you tried last time. I mean, to play g3 and then to play bishop g5, something like this. Okay, anyways, thanks a lot for this game. It was very interesting. Johan Wilhelm Möbus is the next. I'll accept. So, I'll probably play 2 more games. And, yeah. And go sleeping, because that was kind of exhausting week. I'm a bit tired after all this. And the quality of the stream today is not very good, probably. So at least too many players say that the sound is bad and so on. Don't know what's wrong with that. Maybe just not my day. Castles, bishop c7. Rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, main line. c3, castles. h3, h6. Okay. d4. Rook e8. So this main tabia of Smith-Morra variation. We have already played this a lot, right? And last time Johan managed to outplay me. As far as I remember, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, definitely. We played exactly this line. And he managed to outplay me. Okay, so maybe I can improve my play somehow. So last time I played something like queen c7, rook c8, and so on. This time I will try to prepare for white's activity on the king side in advance. So I'll start with the g6. Then bishop to g7. Already controlling this long diagonal, so if white continues with the f4 plan. Okay. I'm ready even to capture an f4, if nothing else works. We will see. 92. So f4 is coming. There is also a possibility to prevent it with the knight h7, I think. It's kind of typical maneuver. Preparing queen h4. Queen e2. Let's try h5. Bishop d3. Okay, maybe I just forgot about opponent's play on the queen side. Or maybe everything is fine still. So at the very least I prevented this annoying f4 play. Well, at the very least I'm ready for this play, right? So now knight takes b3, knight takes b3, c4 is possible. Again, kind of pawn sacrifice, not clear if I will have a full compensation for. Yeah, for this pawn, but no, I don't want to experiment this time. So b4 is kind of move, in which case, of course, I give my opponent c4 square to occupy, but maybe it's not that important. Yeah, let's try b4. No. You know, it can be possible for white to play bishop b5, bit annoying thing. I can also try just queen b6, giving my opponent a chance to play b4, then knight goes to b7, and I control the situation more or less. Don't know, it will be just a double-edged thing, but let's try to do this. Yeah, I lost a lot of time. Not the chess time, but this normal time on the clock. So my opponent has a great advantage on time. More than 1 minute more. And there is a concrete problem with the b5 pawn now. So I have to protect it in advance, I think. Like something like this. Yeah, I think white should be just better here again. Time to fix this line. Because my opponent chooses just a good position every time. Alright, let's go away. Let's close this. My knight is definitely very bad. Permanently, but I have some tricks. By the way, I could have played this immediately after bishop c2. Just get into c3, but I don't know. If I can take it, at the moment the rook is hanging, of course, that's the main problem. And if rook goes to b1, let's say, I just take on c3. And, well, there is no way for my opponent to trap my queen, I do believe. At very least I have a chance to go back to a3 and then through a6. Just a bit cowardly. But pawn is a pawn, right? And it was a very important pawn. But first white has to think of the bishop c2, so to protect it somehow. Okay, now let's go away. It's time to run. f4. Okay, let's take it. Let's come back with the queen, with check. And control this e5, protecting d6 at the same time. Position remains rather complicated, but black has a pawn up. This pawn c4 is a supported passed pawn, so long term black should be very good. I mean, okay, some complications here, but now I'm fine. Just control e5 several times, that is very important. Bishop g7 also controls a1, preventing rook a1 or something. So I can focus on grabbing the initiative, I think. Oh, knight takes h5 is kinda strange a bit, but okay. Missed this completely. Still think that I have enough resources at least to protect myself. But that was definitely unnecessary to give my opponent all this Let's go and counterattack a bit. One on time, but at the very end, actually, that was absolutely unclear. So instead of doing all this, I mean here, after rook f1, I think I could have... Well, rook a3 is okay, but after this, I should have definitely deal with this e5 somehow. But at the moment I have this f7 hanging. Not sure if I have the time, I mean, to prevent all this threats. Very nice counterattack, very nice. And just in time. Yeah, after bishop c8 and e5, very good. e6 is also a threat, by the way, if I don't take on e5, so... Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe d takes e5 was better. So queen h7, king here. I mean, now I have this knight e6 possibility. Yeah. So bishop h6 takes. King here. Check. King d7, bishop f5, goodbye. King here, well, at very least white has a perpetual, at very least. So yeah, that was very good. That was very good, so maybe I could have prevented all this initiative after knight g5, so I just forgot that white still has threats. That was amazing. Yeah, very nice attack. So, well, this was okay. Yeah, it's not that simple to coordinate my pieces. My knight on b7 is just a piece of crap. And this means this knight h5 is a real threat. Yeah. Don't know. Maybe f6, but this looks very ugly. Yeah, f6 is not a move I would play. Yeah, very complicated game. So I don't think that it makes sense to improve white's play somewhere. It was just very decent. The only thing I have a feeling that it was possible just to punish me for all this shit after rook b8 with the help of c4. I had a very bad feeling that c4 simply, yeah, leads to serious advantage for white. Okay. Yeah. So after c4, I think black is just much worse. So I don't think that after bc4, knight c4, there is a way for black to escape this with good position. Too many weaknesses, and black's pieces are very badly coordinated here. Alright, so it's time to fix this line. It's time to actually improve. And time to search for the correct order of moves. Very good game. Very useful one. And I will finish with Sons of Saurus 82 today. Accept the challenge. e4. e5, knight f3. So again, Ruy Lopez. As I said before, today is that is the opening of this episode. Just play Ruy Lopez. Let's play this main line. Well, almost the main line. Castles, h3. And Breyer variation. Okay, let's try to remember how to play this. So I usually play systems with the d3. So I have no idea how to play this one. Oh, bishop takes f7, I think, wins the queen, right? Yeah, it's too much. Knight g5 and then knight e6. Yeah, rook e8 is not a move. Bishop b7 is, of course, the normal continuation of all this. But okay. So, very thematic thing. When a queen is surrounded by own pieces. Yep. Right, so maybe I will play one more. So, there is very clear thing, right? So rook e8, bishop f7. Instead of that, of course, bishop b7 should be played. Okay. Artur Navrovsky's then. And we have the hybrid variation of Queen's Indian or Nimzo Indian. Now, however, we have a transposition to one of the Rubinstein lines of Nimzo Indian. That just shows us how flexible chess is. So we started with one line, we finished in the absolutely different one. Yeah, Kramnik student absolutely correctly mentioned about this trick. So you did miss this against Spassky, but I do believe not exactly in this position, but very similar one, definitely. And as far as I remember, Spassky didn't see this, right? Just, yeah, I don't remember how this story ended. Yeah. So rook e1. Preparing e4. So let's undermine d4 pawn then. Son of Saurus says, thanks for the game, it is the first day I tried to play e4, e5. Well, then it's understandable. No worries. It's just a normal way of learning something new. I know it hurts, but all right. And d4. Okay, so now I think I have to take on d4 and to play something like a6, preventing knight b5. We will have a strange version of Maroczy bind. I can also take on d4, then knight c5, attacking e4, something like this. cd4, knight e4, knight c5, bishop goes away, bishop c3, and then e4 drops. Yeah, that is an interesting option for me. Let's do it. This one. So bishop is hanging and pawn on e4 is under pressure. Maybe I missed something because I'm already tired. as well, as many of you. Well, this gives me a chance just to take the bishop, because I don't think I can take on e4 now. I mean, bishop c3 takes e4. No, doesn't work. Doesn't work. Can also start with rook c8 maybe. Okay, let's start with the rook c8. Let's see. Okay. Now I guess I can play a6. I don't think the knight b5 makes a big sense, because after a6 it feels like the knight has to go back to d4. So that's kind of a waste of time, just giving me extra possibilities. Okay, now how to deal with this position. There are so many different interesting options. I don't even know which one to choose. Let's try this queen c7 move. No. Queen c7 gives my opponent a chance to play knight b5, and then bishop b4 will be captured. Not very cool. Okay, let's take here finally. It's kind of very strange hedgehog without typical pieces. Oh, forgot about the time. All right, let's go faster from now. Kind of extra pawn. Yeah, I could have played this much better, of course. But I have no time, simply, so I have to be fast. That's the main idea now. Just to be fast. Because I have only 30 seconds on the clock. This drops the pawn because of the penal on the e file. Still have no time. So Even with this material advantage, my opponent has great chances. So let's simplify position more and more and more. Thank you. Yeah, that was a great help. So now I delivered a checkmate, which means that I was just lucky not to lose on time in this position. So I think that rook e1 is kind of very modest move here in the opening stage. I would say that the better way of playing this just to play bishop d2 immediately, getting rid of this bishop b4, because in many cases black just plays d6 and then exchanges the bishop on c3. And then white can enjoy the slightly better position with pair of bishops and, yeah, better pawn structure. Okay, anyways, it was an interesting game, was an interesting evening. I do hope that technically it wasn't that awful. Well, actually, many people were not satisfied from the very beginning of the show. I was a bit nervous today, sorry for this as well. Maybe I wasn't that polite at some points. Yeah, sorry. So I will be better next time, that's for sure. That was just a very, very hard week. And it's not over. I'm going to go live on my own during this weekend and also on Monday. Just subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to be informed when I'm online. See you next week during the Banter Blitz, and also on Tuesday during the next episode of Training Tuesday, the show for those who want to improve in chess. But it is the closed show, so if you want to participate, you have to be a premium member. Anyways, yeah, thanks everybody. See you. Bye bye.